We'll call the meeting to order, and I'd like to welcome everybody this evening. We're very excited to have you join us as we celebrate our students for academic, well, I guess it's all academic, but some of our fine arts as well as some of our literary wonders. With that, we'll go with our roll call.
All 5 board members are here.
Wonderful, thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join us in the pledge, being led by Dr. Wall. Before we get into our special presentations, I do want to let everybody know that once we finish with the special presentations and the district update, we will take a break. So you'll have an opportunity to take pictures with your student and their artwork, or at the podium with your student who will be reading some of their Spotlight on Excellent work. With that, we will go to our special presentations. First, our Young Artist Awards. Dr. Dudley.
And while Dr. Dudley's going up, we also will be taking pictures in B3, which is right behind the reception area. And Jennifer Schwab, our community relations liaison, will take pictures of all the recipients and award winners tonight in B3, okay? Thank you. Amy?
Thank you. Well, good evening. It is my honor this evening to recognize our young artist from this next 6 months. The beautiful artwork that you see behind us will be displayed in our boardroom to show off the talents of our great young artists. Before I recognize our young artists, if we have art teachers in the audience, if you would please stand and be recognized. And we are so fortunate to have these great art teachers that work with our young children each and every day to help with their creation of art. And so that's very exciting. So as I call your name, if you would come up and receive your certificate, and then you can stand along here, and then when I call everybody's name, then you can shake hands with the board members. So first we have Reve Howard, a 5th grade student from Carmel Elementary. Mary Kane, a 10th grade student from Carmel High School. Sydney Remmel, an 8th grade student at Carmel Middle School. Ava Botmer, a 5th grade student at Cherry Tree. Caitlin Sinclair, an 8th grade student at Clay Middle School. Kane Hare, a kindergarten student at Collegewood. Zoe Edwards, a 6th grade student at Creekside Middle School. Angelina Yang, a 3rd grade student at Forestdale. Sammy Falkenstein, a 1st grade student at Mohawk Trails. Cooper Rigney, a 5th grade student at Prairie Trace. Evie Toller, a 5th grade student at Smoky Row. Kate Clark, a 5th grade student at Town Meadow. Sydney Wayman, a 5th grade student at West Clay. And Carolyn Ingram, a 5th grade student at Woodbrook. And congratulations to our young artist. If you'd like to go across and we have one more young artist, Kate Wilson, a third grade student at Orchard Park.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Mr. Todd Crosby from Clay Middle School. We have some very talented and patriotic students with us this evening. They were the City of Carmel Veterans Day Essay Contest winners. We felt it was very important to share these essays with you and with us as Veterans Day has become a very teachable moment for all of our schools, as it's important for our students to understand purpose of Veterans Day and to realize we still have men and women in harm's way today fighting for our liberties and our freedom. This has taken on a very positive instructional component as well as patriotic component for our Carmel Clay schools, and these students' essays depict that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Board, Dr. Wall. Tonight, obviously, we recognize greatness from our students in their writing. Home of the Brave was the essay theme this year, and obviously the work that the students put into it, a lot of that came through the social studies department, so I have to thank those teachers, and also our department chair, who with her efforts behind this, Mrs. Giles next to me, obviously the participation was outstanding. The level of competition across the district and the recognition that Clay received in this, as you will see tonight, I think we have 3 outstanding essays, and the students did an outstanding job. So, obviously, I would like to hand it now over to Mrs. Giles so she can announce those names. Thank you.
Good evening. I have 3 ladies who swept the contest from Clay Middle School, and we're so proud of all 3 of them. If they could come stand up here, and then I will have each of them read out loud. Come on up, Madison. Is Katie Fan here this evening? Okay. Well, 2 out of 3. So I have with me 2 of the 3 ladies. This is Isabel Woodward. She's a 6th grade student at Clay Middle School. And then I have Madison Nagel, and she's a 7th grade student at Clay Middle School. Our 8th grade winner was Katie Fan, and each of the ladies would like to share their essays with you.
I cannot thank you enough for everything you've done for us. You are the ones who gave us our freedom. You are the reason we can wake up in the morning. You're the ones brave enough to fight for what we want, not us. I had 4 great-grandpas who fought in World War II for my freedom. No, not my freedom, but everyone's freedom. They were the ones brave enough to fight the enemies and help keep us free. You are our saviors. You are the ones from which we learn about bravery. Most people take our freedom for granted. But I know we are very lucky that you did this for us. In writing this essay, I thought about the book I was reading, The Giver. No one in that book had rights. They had no feeling, no war, no anything. Everything was black and white. Who wants to live in a world like that? We are all very thankful you did this for us. When I started this essay, I hit a roadblock. But I knew I wanted to create an acrostic poem to recognize the letters V-E-T-E-R-A-N. V. Victor over evil. E. Everyone loves what you did. T. Thank you. We give our love and support. E. Everything you did for us became your story. R. Reality of war is sad. A. Always stand tall. N. Never stop thinking about loved ones. Thank you for everything you've done for us.
The words Home of the Brave are in American figures such as the Star-Spangled Banner. These words ring as true to the American people and our veterans. Home of the Brave means that the men and women of great courage and heart are able to live their lives with honor, respect, and kindness. Veterans are the people who really make this saying true in every way. They are the ones who have defended our country and have made it what it is today. Without veterans, the present America would be different in every way. The future generations may not have known how great America is without them. Their courage, honesty, and bravery are the guidelines on which this country thrives. Who else would be brave enough to come to the aid of our country? They were willing to cast their fears aside and give this country support. They were willing to sacrifice their lives for this country so that we can all be here today. Veterans and the theme Home of the Brave go hand in hand. All of us are able to practice our own religion, go to school, have rights, and not live in fear because of veterans' bravery. The heart and soul of our country would not exist if not for our veterans. Children are safe to play and have a good education because of veterans. They are the reason we say the Pledge of Allegiance every day and sing the Star-Spangled Banner before every sporting event. The American people look to our veterans for wisdom, guidance, and teaching. America is truly the home of the brave because of our veterans. Without veterans, this land would not be free or the home of the brave.
Could we have Madison and Isabel come forward and let the board and administration recognize them? And we also have from the high school, Emily Tatum. Emily, are you with us? Emily also was the award winner from our high school. Emily, thanks for being here tonight.
It wasn't courage. These words were spoken to me by veteran Ray Kasheri. Ray led a 10-person crew on a B-24 bomber plane as a pilot during World War II in the Pacific. That is the definition of bravery in my mind. Throughout the history of our great nation, we have placed our trust in our veterans. Too often as Americans, we can lose sight and take for granted the American dream. These veterans never forget. 2 summers ago, I saw Omaha Beach for the first time. As the harsh waves crashed against the shore, my mind was unable to picture our troops, our American citizens struggling to move forward. That is bravery. In recent events, our nation has had to combat the Ebola crisis. The workers at the CDC, Emory Hospital, and Texas Presbyterian Hospital have put their lives on the line in order to save their fellow Americans. We have Americans working for the common good, propelling humanitarian aid in Liberia as well as in our own country. That is bravery. Unfortunately, this year ISIS grew stronger, yet our American troops have still remained strong. Other countries may falter, but the United States remains consistently strong. Today, our servicemen and women combat the terror of ISIS. We are not willing to compromise the security and the integrity of the American people. Every American should attempt to be brave in the name of the United States, but unfortunately, that is rarely the case. And that's why we turn to our veterans. That's why we turn to our veterans to honor the indescribable feats and the accomplishments of these incredible men and women. My friend Ray turned 91 this year, but his eyes still portray his vivacity and his honor to be an American. During the Normandy invasion on D-Day, America was brave. During this time of this Ebola crisis, America is brave. Throughout this year facing ISIS, America continues to be brave. Finally, my friend Ray will forever be brave. America is the home of the brave.
Congratulations to all of our young artists. Right now, we will take a few minutes break, probably about 5 minutes. Please feel free to get up and take pictures. And those who, pardon? Oh, and then room B3, following your pictures here for a formal picture. Thank you.
Got your smile ready? Ready? Oh wait, should I do that? All right, stay right there. Do you see Mr. Reed? The street across there. Yeah.
Oh, I get there too? Okay. Here we go. I'm gonna block the picture.
No, you gotta get in a little. Okay. 2, 3. She was a doctor, so hey, she's really amazing.
Perfect.
Congratulations, honey. Try to get straight up.
So you know you have more awards in first grade than I did. Until I got to
Did she get it? Yes. Yes. You did great. This is the picture. Oh, okay.
Where's Taylor?
Phelan.
Hold on, what's that?
Is that the little one?
Taylor, come here, buddy. Come here.
I'm so sorry. Not a problem. This is very exciting. Come here, sweetie.
Hey, buddy.
All righty. 1, 2. Okay, B3. He has to be more pictures.
Hold up a little bit so your name is on there.
There we go. I had to send this to her grandma in South Africa. She was the first one I called.
Take 2, okay? Take 3, all right?
I said South Africa. I meant England. That's where she lives now. What am I thinking? She moved there like 5 years ago. She moved back.
Should we send it in and take a picture again?
I think so.
I think they want to do
You look a little
our public
Asian.
relations person is going to work.
Okay.
Hey, how far over there? You don't miss that. They might be like a formal picture.
Well, we'll get started with the rest of the meeting. Seeing that we have no public participation, we will go ahead with consent. May I get a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Consent passes. Next, we'll move on to action. First action item are course changes for 2015-16. Dr. Dudley.
Thank you. This evening, I bring for your approval some proposed course changes for the 2015-16 school year. And as we discussed a couple of weeks ago in our previous board meeting, we have several new course changes that continue to provide that rigorous, challenging course of study for our students.
Thank you, Dr. Dudley. Make it a motion on the table.
So moved.
Second? Thank you. Discussion? Yes? Mr. Phillips.
It just makes me break out into a cold sweat thinking about having to take some of these classes myself. Thermodynamics. This is really awesome.
Yes. Very rigorous.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, let's take a vote. All in favor of supporting the course recommendations for 2015-16 signify by saying aye. 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 Wonderful. Next, we have the approval of calendars for the next 3 years. Dr. Wall.
The item reflects the calendar committee work that was done early this fall, presented to the board by the teachers, administrators, and parents. This is the same report you received last time. We recommend it for the next 3-year cycle.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wall. May I get a motion on the table?
So moved.
Second? Okay, Greg. We'll take Greg's second. Discussion. Wonderful. Okay. Let's take a vote. All in favor of supporting the calendars as recommended?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, we have a discussion item. First item for discussion is the 2015 school board regular meeting dates. Doctor?
You can.
Oh, okay.
I'll let Layla lead that. I mean, that really is, we've put together the dates that are comparable with some asterisks. As you know, anytime you have Monday meetings, there's going to be asterisks because of a variety of functions. So I'll let the board have a discussion on how you want to do that.
Okay. Well, we did take a look at the 2015 interfaith calendar to look for events that might dictate when we should and shouldn't have a meeting, as well as the National School Board Association meeting in March. So what you see before you is a compilation of that data. Some changes. March, we're having meetings back-to-back, March 9th and the following week on the 16th, because the fourth Monday we will all be in Nashville, Tennessee at the National School Board Association meeting. May, we have our traditional one meeting. July, we are moving to one meeting. This past summer we had one meeting, and we're going to continue with that. It'll be our regular meeting. We're going to forego having the workshop, but we will have within our cycle a board retreat with the administration and the board in July. So we will be having that meeting. So we will still have our 2 meetings. It just won't be an official workshop. And then one other change we have in September, Tuesday the 15th instead of a Monday. Rosh Hashanah starts on that Sunday, so we are having the meeting, we're postponing that. And then in December, instead of the Monday meeting, we'll have a Tuesday meeting to help out our fellow colleague Kathy, who'll be giving exams that day at Butler at night. So that's what we have proposed. Any questions or comments? Please.
I just have one question. I'm sure this is already looked at, but since in March we had those meetings one Monday and then the following Monday, I assume that's fine with payroll and
Yes,
all that? Okay.
yes, we double-checked with Roger.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Okay. Then we'll bring this back next month. If there's any questions or concerns that might come up, please share those with myself and/or Dr. Wall, and we will have those adjusted. Next, we have the superintendent's report. Dr. Wall.
Thank you, Layla. As we discussed goals last spring and into the summer, one of the areas we had discussed at that time was looking at a strategic plan. And the strategic initiatives that we had discussed going into that, really, let me back up to actually my first fall here when we had our first meeting. We reaffirmed the vision statement behind us on the wall and our mission statement. I introduced a goal-setting process that we've used that's student-centered. What we did recognize then at the beginning of my time here is that we did not have a strategic plan that we had looking at some long-term strategic initiatives, recognizing that and indicating that would be something that would be part of our goals process and our actions for this year. Also in that discussion, we talked about the guiding principles that we may have, or the value statements, whatever term we want to use for that, and that those were areas that we would be looking at as it relates to strategic initiatives. We also had mentioned, and it was reaffirmed by our advanced ed study last spring, where the district received 5-year accreditation again, that we needed to be more systematic and strategic as we look at the changing student demographic that we have in Carmel Clay schools. And that was one of the goals we had discussed last year as well. And again, Advanced Ed reaffirmed that that is something that we should continue to do. So as we look at long-range strategic initiatives, and as it relates to our student demographic, one of the constant challenges that Carmel Clay Schools has faced over the years is how to look at the building capacities as it relates to the attendance centers and potential discussions on redistricting. So that's a part of the student demographic piece that has been ongoing in Carmel Clay Schools for many, many years. And some years, you know, as I reflected with the administrative team, with Roger and with Amy, we had many years in Carmel Clay Schools where that change was fairly rapid as far as growth. As we sit here today, the ADM count we had last year to this year changed a student +1. So we're moving into a different phase as we look at our student population, and we need to be responsive to that as well. And one of the things I discussed with the board last year when we recommended we not go through redistricting last year is that when we do it, it needs to be a longer plan than we had been previously, than you really had the luxury of doing because of the changing variables at that time. So that's a significant component as we look at this strategic planning process going forward. And I just want to highlight, if I could, a couple of things as we talk about strategic planning. And one, talked with a lot of different third parties, and one of the recommendations I had going into this was a third party facilitate the process. And one of the things that I had discussed with you, and it was part of our program evaluation model. It's part of Advanced Ed. It's part of our goal-setting model. We have a very strong desire for a continuous improvement model here. It's in program evaluation, everything we do. Research-based best practice. And so often, we in school business and school leaders we're bombarded with all kinds of techniques and solutions and methodologies purporting to help our organization improve what we do in delivery of instruction, in teaching and learning, in stakeholder satisfaction, and all those things. One of the things we need to have is a strategy that we believe necessitates and effectively creates a change for the greater good instead of changing for change's sake. And I think that's very important for us to note as we look at the model we have for goal setting. I call that circle that goes around there a filter, so we don't fall victim to ideas du jour, the idea of the day. And I think that's really important because it allows our teachers, it allows our students, our school community to feel that continuity and to know that when we're presenting this information, it is research-based best practice. It is something that we can provide professional development for and can go forward together in a strategic way. We want to make sure that our strategic planning process focuses on the internal and external environment and utilizing quantitative and qualitative. So the proposal that we have in front of you does deal with important front-loading of qualitative information. It does involve individual discussions and dialogue with each of you. It involves stakeholder feedback of parents, community leaders, teachers, administrators, and students. Focus groups, because we believe, I believe, and this process believes, that qualitative feedback is very important as we look at Carmel Clay School strategic planning going forward for these big initiatives. But we also see the importance of it having quantitative support. So as we look at a plan that is presented to us in the spring of this year, which will be the end of this year, spring and June, and we start to have these strategic initiatives, we want to make sure that we have the backing behind that so it supports these initiatives going forward. It's kind of like the old Wendy's commercial, where's the beef? We want to make sure we have that beef and that substance behind this as we march forward with these strategic initiatives. There's a definition I stumbled across that I think really resonates with what I think captures strategic planning. Disciplined effort to produce fundamental decisions and actions that shape and guide what an organization is, what it does, and why it does it. To deliver the best results, strategic planning requires broad yet effective information gathering, development and exploration of strategic alternatives, and an emphasis on future implications of present decisions. I think that's one of our constant challenges, and that's from J.M. Bryson. That's a quote that he has used. I think that's one of our constant challenges. We want to make sure that we have an emphasis on future implications of present decisions, and that takes the qualitative piece, listening to our constituents and stakeholders. It also takes, obviously, the quantitative piece. Is that a best practice? So we don't fall victim to that idea du jour. This process embraces that, and they do a three-phase process: conduct research, develop the plan, and then we want to make sure we can implement. Because, as we all know, a plan is only as effective as what we do with it. And I think we found over the past year and a half that we don't do plans and goals that just go into a binder and sit there and get cobwebs on them. We want to make sure we're doing these things and keeping them alive and active. And I also appreciate on page 3 of their report, it does go into the mission, vision, guiding principles, research findings, which, those are some common themes that we've looked at when we've done our annual goal reviews with School Board Association. as it looks at, objectives to tactics to execution, and the role of administration and the role of board as we put strategic plans into process and into execution. The timeline, if I might hover on that for a little bit, will help, hopefully guide where we're going. And I'm a firm believer that we keep these timelines in front of us, just like we do with our annual cycle for our goal evaluations as a board and as a school community. It keeps that in front of us then. This timeline for the strategic planning process, I think, does just that. And the intent is to kick off this process in December before we break for winter break. I know it doesn't seem like long, but there's plenty of time. And we have the focus groups that I've already given a heads up to, from our coordinating council to our expedition groups, which represent our stakeholders, as well as administration and teachers. The student advisories that we have, we're definitely going to utilize them as well in this process. So that kicks off, actually, and we'll be contacting you, the board, for your availability for at least an hour session over the next couple weeks, where they'll be talking with you, and they've given us some guiding strategic areas that they're going to talk to you about. So there's some references to what that may be. We'll get the focus groups on the calendar. They'll facilitate those. It's definitely by design that the findings and recommendation for redistricting will come back to the board in January, as you can see on the timeline. The February administering of surveys, one of the things that I said, we're going to utilize all the advanced ed information and the demographic information we have. Depending on the report in January, the third party will be recommending surveys are not in February, because they're going to use all the information we just did last year with advanced ed. I'm not a big fan of just doing surveys for survey's sake. That's not the purpose of what we're trying to do. From that, the goal is to have a draft of strategic plan submitted to all of us in late April, and then obviously that'll take some discussion to finalize it. This falls in quite well with our annual planning cycle too, by the way. So to allow us to thoughtfully consider this, and you, the board, to thoughtfully consider this before we have to look at a potential implementation plan and to finalize it. So it runs in concert with our yearly cycle as well. Like anything, though, as we go through this, there should be some flexibility as we see things, or as the third party sees things that we may not see, because they're triangulating everything and looking at all the constituent groups and giving the reports back to us. So as we see those reports come in January and April, we'll see if there needs to be some flexibility as well, based upon what they find and things that they may do. But I wanted to give the board just a status and heads up where this is going, and feel like it's actually going to fall into an excellent timeline with how we do our annual goal process as well. So our intent is you'll be getting contacted actually tomorrow for your availability and for the next couple of weeks to get this going.
Well, thank you.
But I'll entertain any questions or thoughts on this as well.
Mr. Phillips.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm quite pleased that we're embarking on this process. I think this is just a wonderful indication of the great direction that this district is headed. And I think if we do these things that we're intending to do here, that it'll pay major dividends for students, certainly coming down the road. So I'm very, very happy with that. I did have just one lingering question, as I'm sure you know, Dr. Wall, that redistricting has been like the third rail of board existence for years and years and years. Is there any possibility that this might not fit perfectly within the strategic planning process. I mean, I'm not asking a very sharp question, I know that, but I'm still captive to my experience with redistricting in the past, where it's been a kind of a big deal. Lots of input from lots of people. It's quite a is that going to be carried over in any fashion into this new process, or are we going to see an entirely different approach to redistricting?
Well, there's going to be, I can't speak exactly to the process that you used before, but what we can say here is it's going to be a component of strategic planning. It's not going to be just a separate entity, and all the stakeholder groups will have an opportunity to share their input, thoughts, concerns, ideas, from parents to even students to teachers to administration, so that all those groups will be represented to gather their feedback, as well as looking at what we have as far as our demographics. All the reports, we just did a demographic study last year, so all that's going to be represented, and then a recommendation, so we have a 5-year, minimally a 5-year window on this thing, as opposed to the 2-year windows. That's just not the way we want to do this, so I think I'm comfortable with the process and getting a recommendation in January.
I certainly like the idea of having a longer window. I think it's very disruptive to families to have the prospect of redistricting coming every 2 years or so. As a practical matter, if we see some surge of population in a corner of our district that has kids being moved into trailers for classrooms, will that be, I guess I'm asking you to make a judgment on something that's way down the road, but I guess personally I would rather see classrooms in trailers than to see kids disrupted, families disrupted. That'd be my call, but.
Okay. I don't anticipate that, but your points, I hear your point. We're going to do the best we can to be the least disruptive.
We're placing a higher value on shielding people from disruption than on the logistical problems of what you do if you happen to have more kids than technically fit in a school. And I think that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Tricia.
I just have a couple of questions, but I'm going to start with, since to jump off Greg, the one on redistricting. In the past, we've tried different things with redistricting, as you alluded to, I guess tweaking here and there. But one thing that seems to have progressed quite well, and I think we've gotten pretty good at, is the rollout. Once a decision is made, the continuity between building, the gathering of thoughts from principals, and then coordinating that effort for kids to visit schools and how that's rolled out so that people feel comfortable about what's coming up. So one way or another, I don't know if that will come up in surveys and focus groups or if that's something to look at from the past, but I think that's one area that their principals have coordinated well and have given some really good input, and that's grown really. We get great feedback from that.
Good.
So I guess that's more of a comment. But anyway, as far as the strategic planning process, very excited to see this. Can you just talk a little bit about how our current strategic plan that was really looked at just a few years ago and our current district goal-setting cycle, which you spoke to a little bit, how that'll be folded in here, or will that be determined once the company gets input from people?
Well, I'm going to obviously utilize them to recommend how these interface. They've obviously seen all of our goal-setting process because it's online. And they see that interfacing very well with the strategic timeline and the way the strategic plan is going to roll out. It really is kind of the goal-setting process we do is very much the kind of the boots on the ground to get things done. And I see strategic plan looking at big initiatives that will be ongoing like attendance centers, like finances. You know, it's no secret that if we don't have a change in our funding model at the state level, we'll be talking about our referendum ends in 2017. Those are big strategic initiatives that we need to have as a part of this plan. So yeah, obviously we want to lean on them to make some recommendations on that, but I see that interfacing very well with our goal-setting process.
Okay, thank you. And then I guess my other question is in the past, of the strategic planning efforts with this district that I've known about, which is not all of them, I have to say, going back in history, but I don't remember one where we've asked an outside agency to lead it, which actually seems like a good idea, but I'm curious about cost, what that is costing, what the cost of that is.
We've talked about that, and I talked to Roger about that and Amy at great detail. And I talked to 6 different third parties on this. Many of them want to just give you a lump sum and say, here's what we're going to do. I'm personally not a big fan of that because I don't want to pay them for something they're not doing for us. So I would much rather work with a company, much like we do with, like we did for bargaining. When you do we brought in an outside attorney to facilitate that, an expert, and we don't pay them unless they're working for us. So we have a structure for this that we'll guide, and we'll say if we need these surveys or not in February, but it's not going to be just a structure where we're saying, yeah, this is going to be a blanket one sum for this work. I think we get a much better product that way.
Do we have any kind of framework, though, for that, as far as cost to the district?
Yeah, they have a suggested, what do they call it, letter of engagement for the hourly work that they do, much like we do with our other special service for attorneys and other fees like that. So they do.
I think I think what she's interested in knowing is what is the dollar value, how much is this going to cost, and perhaps you could put it in perspective as to how much does some of the other bids come in for the big package as compared to piecemealing out what it is that we need.
Right.
And how I know the library had done a very comprehensive strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how much that costs them, but how might this compare to that?
I know they did. I mean, I talked to them about that. They did a very comprehensive strategic plan, and I know theirs was about $47,000 all in for the process. The letter of engagement that I would suggest is where they come and only charge us for work that they do here. For instance, they charge about $185 an hour for work, as opposed to coming in and just saying, we're going to charge you $50,000 for a strategic plan. Now, obviously, Roger and I have talked about being mindful of a larger budget, and there's not going to be an open checkbook because we're going to guide the process and what they do. So we do have a framework for that.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And actually, as far as the strategic plan and having a third party, I kind of liken it to running a referendum. We're educators here. We hire educators to do a job in the classroom and to support the classroom. We don't fundraise for a living, nor do I think we should. And so here's another area I think where it's great to go for an expert, but yeah, cost is something,
Oh, sure. Absolutely. We're very mindful of that. And I would agree. It's not like we want to do strategic planning annually. That's not the purpose. It is a longer range view of how we're going to be doing things, and to have someone come in and take a look at all the things we are doing and connecting those dots, I think that's a healthy way to validate, And I thought the advanced ed did a nice job of validating a lot of things we do. It's not strategic planning, though.
Right, yeah.
It's accreditation, validation of what we're doing. It's important. Don't mistake me. It's just a different function. Right. And I'm glad we do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Pam?
Yes, I have two questions. One, is there a process that we will go through to help choose the participants in the focus groups?
Well, what I was going to suggest is, as far as our coordinating council, that is a great cross-reference of our parent groups, and then current expedition and all past expedition is community. I'd be open if you have other suggestions, but I think we tap into those.
Well, I was thinking, with the teachers.
With teachers, yes. I mean, I've already talked.
And students, are you going to go through elementary students all the way through or are you just picking high school students?
The thought I had on that was utilizing our high school students. My advisory group is a cross-section of the middle schools. I know John Williams has one as well. I would utilize those groups that we have that are already a nice cross-section of the high school and the district, and with experience going through our schools, elementary and middle school. Teachers, I've talked to the association about, having, them having the representation like we do for any other committee.
Okay.
And they're totally on board on that.
All right, so, but they can only give us a certain percentage of a committee, so how are we going to choose the participants that aren't in that percentage?
For the other, well, we'd probably talk to our administrators and building principals and.
Because I'd like to see a wide range of teachers, not always the lead teachers or.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Specific people. I'd like to see a vast.
Cross-section?
Yeah.
Sure.
That.
We would too.
And the other question is, once this is in place, since they're going to only be doing the initial process, how will we be following up on this? Will we have a committee that will follow up yearly on this and review the strategic plan so we can see if there are any, we might have to refine it for the next year or?
Well, that's why I like how we do our goals. It'll be part of how we do our goals gets things on, like I said, boots on the ground, how we get things done. It'll be a part of that.
Okay.
It'll be built into that on an annual basis.
Greg, you had a question down there?
Thank you. Just another comment. I wanted to reinforce the idea that it's really worthwhile to have that outside expert. I think I heard that you mentioned that the library's done that sort of thing, and it's been very valuable. In fact, other parts of the community have taken the lead from that library, and they're also using that outside person to help out. So I think it's a very positive move. And I'd also like to echo Pam's, thought that all this wonderfulness needs to be integrated with what we do on an ongoing basis.
Right.
We need to have this built into whatever it is that we do going forward, which I'm sure will happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of making plans just for plan's sake. This needs to be very pragmatic and doable, and part of how we then march forward and implement it. Because implementation is more important than just the planning part, because you got to get it done.
Ms. Kathy.
Just a question. It kind of ties into what Pam had asked, but it will be like a 5-year plan. Is there any, in 2 years we'll upgrade it to go 5 years, always be a rolling plan, or will in 5 years we repeat the process and come up with a new plan?
I've asked them that, so that'll be something they'll address as they roll out, discussion when they do the draft submittal, the finalized strategy, and then development in the May and June. I'm going to let them guide us on that. Personally, I'd like it to be rolling, so you're always planning out, have that process in place like we do annually, but have these strategic initiatives keep those in front of us as well.
I have a question. I very much support using an unbiased outside vendor. You had said you looked at a number of different vendors, and this ECRA is one that you feel very comfortable with. Do you have experience using them? Can you speak to that for us?
I did. I actually worked with them in 2008 in a district in Illinois. They did the strategic planning process, so I do have a very positive experience working with them. That wasn't the sole piece, but the piece I really like about them, to be honest with you, they come and they personalize it, they back it with sound research findings, and give you a plan that you can implement. It isn't pie in the sky or all philosophical that doesn't allow you to implement. So my experience with them has been very positive in the strategic planning process, and I think they continue to actually do a better job with this. I mean, what they have on their website now is much more robust than it was in 2008, so it's actually, they've really continued to do the strategic planning for schools.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Great. If we should, we will go ahead and send those emails directly to you, and then you can just post updates on our Google site. Do you need us?
What emails?
If we have any additional questions?
Oh, of course, yes, okay.
Sorry.
You threw me. Yeah, any more, let me know. But what we'll be doing is contacting you tomorrow to get your calendars, so we'll get this going, and then start the same with focus groups, which will be in mid-December.
That sounds great.
Thank you very much for your thoughtful questions.
Board reports. Anybody have anything they'd like to share this evening? Okay. Announcements. Well, we have Thanksgiving break, so please enjoy the Thanksgiving break with your family. Keep in mind that we just have the one board meeting in December, and that's going to be on Tuesday, December 16th. That is one of our longer meetings, so be prepared. I will let you know that in advance, so choose wisely if that's the one you really want to get to and at what time. Seeing that there are no other comments, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.